The universe of Halo is no stranger to conflict or war. From the well-known Human Covenant War to Cortana's AI uprising to the Great Grunt Rebellion, link in the description. Halo's setting has been forged through multiple millennia of bloodshed and destruction. But today, we're going to dive into the war that would change the course of human history forever. The war that consumed the old world and from the ashes brought about the dawn of a new age. The Interplanetary Wars. The Interplanetary War, or rather the Interplanetary Wars, was a period of armed conflicts fought between what remained of fragmented United Nations forces and the neo-communist and fascist movements that had spread in the late 22nd century. Both of these philosophies would re-emerge across Earth's colonies after years of global instability that had severely crippled the power and authority of existing nation-states. The first being the neo-communist movement, the Bolsheviks. Originating from Mars's mining city of this city. The Bolshevik miners, led by miner-turned-activist Vladimir Kozlov, of which the group was named after, rallied against what they saw as their financial exploitation by the corporations which dominated Mars. After the violent takeover of 3 mining facilities, the Bolsheviks would officially be labeled a terrorist organization by the United Nations. Their movement, however, would gain momentum on Mars, parts of the lunar colony, and across the Jovian moons. The other group would be the neo-fascist organization ironically named the Frieden Movement. German for peace, this ideology would spark on the distant colony world of Europa in response partly to the recent emergence of the Bolsheviks, but also to the UN's quote-unquote perceived oppression. The movement, having its anti-Bolshevik sentiment, would be majorly supported by corporations from the unified German Republic, who had since been targets of Bolshevik uprisings. Definitely wouldn't be to rekindle any long-lost love, huh, Germans? Anyway, it wouldn't be till 2158 where Friedens would target and level a United Nations embassy with military-grade explosives speculated to be supplied by said republic, killing dozens, that the UN would officially label the Frieden movement as a terrorist organization. In response to this act of terrorism, the United Nations dispatched colonial advisors to assist with policing efforts, though it would be wasted effort. In the years that followed, both groups would grow exponentially in support. With the UN lacking any serious military capabilities across the colonies, their influence and activities would be left mostly unchecked, eventually leading up to multiple clashes. The fascists would be the ones to light the fuse, however, as in March of 2160, Frieden terrorists would attack the UN's colonial advisors on the Jovian moon of Lo, officially starting the Jovian Moon campaigns. What would ensue is some of the bloodiest fighting humanity had witnessed in years between Frieden, Bolshevik, and stationed United Nations forces. These firefights and acts of terrorism would escalate to full-on war efforts, with thousands killed in the process on all sides. This escalation on the Jovian moons would spur the militarization of all sides and even go on to spark more proxy wars on Earth and more disorder across the colonies. After almost a solid year of fighting, the clash on the Jovian moons would seem to subside, leaving no real resolution and countless colonists dead. This would only be the beginning. By February of the following year, a series of terrorist bombings across South America would go on to ignite a 19-month campaign of guerrilla warfare between the Kosleviks, Freidens, and United Nations forces. These conflicts would later be known as the Rainforest Wars. While most of the fighting would rage across the Amazon, armed conflicts would also re-emerge across the colonies and other parts of Earth. The destruction and famine bred by the Rainforest Wars, toppled with the overpopulation of Earth and her colonies, left humanity at the brink of collapse. With the Kosleviks and the Freidens' ongoing rivalry leaving only destruction and chaos, the United Nations would band together with the last of their military resources and form a composite military force, mostly made up of naval and marine corps assets. With this new force, the UN prepare for the worst to come. And come, it does. Shut up. In November of 2163, the Freiden movement's leader, I'm not pronouncing that, was assassinated while on her way to a command center on Europa. Later, the Kosleviks would claim responsibility. Enraging the Freidens, by December, they would launch a full-scale invasion on the Koslevik makeshift capital and shipbuilding hub of Argyr Plenty. What the fuck? With the Freidens using almost all of their military assets, the city was obliterated from the face of Mars in mere hours, scattering the surviving Koslevik forces to the outskirts of Mars. After this act of artificial Armageddon, the Freidens would splinter into different cells after the death of their leader, causing infighting, but still proving themselves to be a significant force. Together, with the Koslevik capital in ruin and the Freidens' leadership crippled, the Interplanetary Wars had begun. 6 months of fighting across Mars would take place between the scattered remnants of Koslevik forces and the Freiden cells, fractured but determined to see their extermination through. In all that time, the United Nations finally see an opportunity and make their move. By July, the UN's new military force are deployed to Mars, waging a war of attrition against both the Kosleviks and the Freiden cells. After 2 years of ruthless conquest, the United Nations would stomp out all Martian opposition, reclaiming the planet and marking the first successful operation against these radical ideologies. Not only that, but this campaign would also mark the first ever extraterrestrial deployment of Marines on colonial soil. This victory over Mars would bolster the UN's ranks as the people were tired of being collateral damage like they had been for years at this point, colonial or not. In the same year, the United Nations would officially rename their composite force to the United Nations Space Command. With their boosted ranks and new military philosophy battle-tested, the UN was ready to go on the offensive. Thanks to the UNSC's new procedure that favored ground assaults and shipboarding strategies, new forms of invasive tactics would be developed to both control and eliminate the opposing force. As stated earlier, not only did the Mars campaign see the first ever extraterrestrial deployment of UNSC Marines, but also a new subdivision of Marine that would infiltrate behind enemy lines in a way never seen before. From orbit. In the year following the victory over Mars, the UNSC would begin to push both the Kosleviks and the Freidens back, eliminating any and all radical opposition, moon after moon, ship after ship, and leader after leader. In the spring of 2167, Vladimir Kozlov and his family were killed in a car bombing near Lake... Oh, give me a fucking... You know what? Lake I don't know, this name. While the UNSC denied any involvement, it is highly speculated that the new orbital infiltration units were used to cause a power vacuum in an already crippled movement. In addition, many believe the Freidens at this point lack any coordination to orchestrate such an attack. In any case, the Kosovic leadership had been severed. In the same year, UNSC forces began their invasion in fascist-held territory, wiping out any Freiden presence across the Jovian moons. In not much time, hundreds of weapon caches, hideouts, bases, and fleet ships are destroyed, disarming what was left of their movement. By 2169, little remained of each movement. The rest of the year would be spent hunting down the last vestiges of both ideologies by the UNSC. After over a decade of warfare and gruesome bloodshed, the UNSC would pen the Callisto Treaty, a ceasefire agreement that gave the UNSC complete military and police jurisdiction in all colonial territories. The Callisto Treaty was signed by representatives of all three sides in March of 2170 on, you guessed it, Uranus. After the ceasefire, humanity would spend the next century recovering from the years and years of famine, war, and senseless struggle. But under one unified banner, humanity finally had something it hadn't had for decades. It had a future. But what do you think about the interplanetary wars in the lore? Do you like it? Hate it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and letting me take up some of your time. If you like what I do, please subscribe and like the video as it helps me out as a creator. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.